on with the marketplace. And, where it's going to go for the next, I don't know, month or two or three. This is a great show for you. So stay tuned. We're going to cover all that and more. Some cool stuff, always some cool stuff on this show. But we're going to go analytics style. We're going to go even more deeper and deeper into the analytics of the housing market and what is happening to the current Phoenix market and where the opportunity might lie, or maybe you just sit there and go, there's no opportunity there. And maybe that's the case. That's for you to decide, not for me to tell you, for me to give you the stats and you decide what's best for you. Okay, so we're going to jump in here, guys, like we always do. And, this show could last 15 minutes. It could last 30. Usually we're around 30 minutes because we go deep on some of this material. But again, I'm not going to waste your time. I'm going to get right to it. And I know your time is valuable, and I appreciate you joining the call today. We have multiple people on the call right now. And if you feel comfortable, want to put your city, state, where you are watching us from, that would be great. Kind of helps the algorithm know how to curate this information for the appropriate audience. So thank you so much, guys. And leave a comment, leave a question. I will be sure to address it and answer it on the show today. So we're going to jump right in. As I just said, here we go. All right. This right here is a dashboard from the Cromford report that tells you exactly, as of today, where the market stands with a couple of different snapshots. So you can see right now that the average sales price per square foot is at $296 on the monthly average, and it's at $291 on the annual average as, again, of today. This is not lagging data. That's 1 month, 2 months, 3 months behind, okay? This is 2 days data. And you have the monthly average of appreciation. Guys, who does not want to know what the appreciation is doing with their asset, or maybe an asset they're going to buy, i.e. their home? Everyone wants to know that. And so there you go. Here's a quick snapshot on that. You have the annual appreciation right now of 3.6% based on the change in the monthly average price per square foot. And then you have the annual appreciation at 4.4 based on the change of the annual average price per square foot. So the market still, year over year, is increasing in value on the monthly average or annual average, either way you look at it. Okay, you can see the graph here. Now, the monthly average most recently has gone down. We talked about that because of what's happening with the contract ratio, the lack of demand. Demand is going down and supply is going up, and it's getting further and further apart, which is causing the monthly average of the appreciation rate to start to compress. Okay, that makes sense. Where does it stop? We don't know. I can tell you interest rates plays a role in that. Duh, right? Like, who didn't know that? Okay. And then you can see the annual average is a little more consistent. So since June of last year, you've seen a little bit of a dip last summer because that's seasonal for our market. But then it kind of went up from there and has steadily been increasing since then in a marketplace that needs more supply. We are behind on starts for new home construction here in Phoenix by quite a bit. So let's jump over here. And if you don't take my word for that, take the Phoenix Business Journal's word for it, because here we go. Home equity. Oh, I just kind of made up a word. Home equity, homeowner equity. Nope. Homeowner equity, 2 words, continues to rise despite housing market challenges. So you can see right here in this article, it has some good information, okay? Homeowners' recent equity gains are impacting the nation's overall housing market, okay? Now, here's some stats. You might find this interesting. I did. U.S. homeowners with a mortgage pulled in $28,000 in equity gains on average year over year. Guys, this is in the first quarter. Now, can we just pause for a second on this? Because, guys, the rates are still at 7%, plus or minus, right around there, or even more so on the plus side, actually. And they're high. And yet, the homeowners across America, on average, pulled in $28,000 in 1 year in equity gain. That is incredible. Incredible. And that's why they say one of the best wealth building tools is owning your own home. Very, very important. Okay. I just want to pause on that because it's so important, guys. I know there's a great argument out there to rent. I know it. And for some people in certain situations, that makes a lot of sense to do that today. But don't do it if you're uninformed. Don't do it just to do it because, well, it's $100 cheaper a month. And so I got to do it. Maybe you can't afford that extra $100. And so that makes a lot of sense. You should rent if that's the case. You don't want to go negative and not be able to make your payment. But if you do have the money, you just maybe feel comfortable saving some more, maybe still think about it, because if you can live without that $100, then there's a very good argument here to in play to go ahead and jump in to the homeowner market and therefore start to build equity, build your net worth for the long term. All right, I'm going to go back to my screen here and we're going to continue this article because it's a good one. All right, here we go. Then, of course, we talk about COVID-19 and implications, and that's why a lot of equity has grown specifically since 2020 for sure, okay? But you come out here and you say, what's the ratio here, right? Well, first of all, if we talk about California, homeowners in Los Angeles Metro netted $72,000 year over year. 72,000 because obviously price points are more. All right. But in New Jersey, it's 59,000. Again, price points on average are higher across the board. That's why. Okay. But what's that look like in terms of the overvalue and undervalue of the marketplaces across America? So I'm gonna hit you with this real quick because this is an interesting one. Okay. Here we go. Nope. I'm spoiling the alert here. These are the most overvalued and undervalued housing markets. Here you go. Phoenix Business Journal. This is interesting, right? Now, if you're looking for a good deal on a home, this says the Midwest could be a good place to look. We all kind of know that. California, on the other hand, is not. All right. That's where all the overvalued housing markets are in terms of what people are making, right, on income. Okay. So this is interesting, though. Here we go. Look at this here. The value proposition. And now, where does Phoenix lie in this? That's the question. Where does Phoenix lie on this? Well, here are some big market cities across America, right? LA, number one, 124% overvalued when it comes to buying power compared to the existing home price. Then you go San Jose, San Diego, San Francisco, the top four are in California, Seattle, New York, okay? These are no surprises. Then you got Las Vegas. That's interesting, Las Vegas, right? Sacramento, California. You got Boston, Miami, Riverside, and then comes Phoenix. Now, Phoenix, guys, currently sits at, with a buying power of $355,000. Phoenix sits at, 428, 123, which is a 21%, quote unquote, overvaluation of the housing market based on what people's buying powers are on average living in Phoenix area. Okay. But it's interesting. Talks about some more here. You got Nashville, Tampa, Denver. You got Austin, which is a hot market still with only 7% overvalued. That's interesting, right? Because they're building homes like wildfire out there. Okay. And then you go down here and you see what are the interesting ones. I thought this was interesting. Dallas. Okay. Dallas right here. Minus 11. Interesting, right? By the way, this is like golf. If you're minus on this report, it's a good thing. Okay. Philadelphia, minus 30%. Wow. Buffalo, New York, minus 30. You have Columbus, Ohio. But the number one, you guessed it, Detroit. And right behind it, Cleveland, right? Then Pittsburgh. The Rust Belt areas obviously are very affordable compared to what you're making, compared to what the housing market costs today in today's market, right? So minus 44%. Wow. Compared to LA, which is plus 124%. San Jose, 98%. All right. So that's interesting, right? That we talked about that with this article that's going on right now. Okay. But I want to, despite all that, I want to go into some more data about Phoenix's market here. Okay. Listings under contract. The number of listings under contract, 8238 at week 23 is the lowest we have recorded for that time of the year since, you guessed it, 2007, or maybe you didn't guess it because that's a long time ago, right? But here's the graph. This dark blue, midnight blue graph here, color is 2007. You have the turquoise blue or teal blue here. That's 2024, right? Now, 2023, they talk about was not a good year. So here we go. At no point so far in 2024 has the count managed to claw its way above the miserable totals for 2023. Now, 2007 was an awful year with the market stalled by the certain knowledge that housing prices were about to collapse. Matter of fact, in Phoenix, it pretty much was starting to collapse, right? Because we were ahead of the rest of the country. We are not in that situation in 2024. I'm going to repeat that. We are not in that situation in 2024, but buyer enthusiasm for resale homes is still very low. To put 8238 into perspective, the total for week 23 in 2011 was well over 21,000 listings going under contract, okay? If the 30-year fixed rate mortgage finally tumbles well below 7%, then things are likely to improve. I recommend watching the turquoise line above to see if it can creep above the purple line over the next couple of months, because that would be a good thing. Hopefully it happens, all right? So very important. Okay, let's look at some more data here. Here we go. The average cumulative days on market, okay? Now, where do they currently stand with the Crawford report? We just updated this. Here we go. Days on market are a big indicator, guys, because that tells you how long homes are sitting before they are actually going under contract or selling, right? Well, Q2 24, here we go. You can see that in June, the average days on market is 63 days, 0.62, 63.6 days on market. Okay. That is a lot compared to, look at the last several years here. Okay. 21, 22, and 20 since COVID. Now, 22, it started going up because the market slowed down. And 23, it started coming back down because the market sped back up. All right. So what is going to happen here? Well, we're still at 63 days. That's not great. Now, if you look at the median cumulative days, this is interesting, right? It's roughly, let's see here, it's 44. Okay. So it's lower on the median size. Its average is much higher at 63. That's interesting. I think it's good to get perspective on both. Let's go to the next indicator. This is the number of price changes, or i.e. reductions per week. Okay. You can see back in 22, look at the amount we're having here. It peaked in October of 22 at 4,427 price reductions. Now, I know I showed this chart a couple episodes ago, but I'm showing it again because it's that important as an indicator of where the housing market is going. You come down here and you can see, look at this. I mean, this is a great time, December of 23, because there weren't that many listings on market. People are holding because of Christmas. It didn't mean the market was on fire necessarily, because it wasn't in December 23. But they have steadily increased since, to the point where now we're at 2,464 price cuts in June 9th, or as of June 9th of 24. So this is a good indicator the market is going to continue to slow down overall. All right. Very interesting. Now, if you go back to the next chart, what's another indicator? This is going to be seller paid concessions. Okay. What is that? Guys, seller paid concessions are when a seller says, okay, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and give you additional money off the contract price to go ahead and maybe buy down your rate, to go ahead and maybe get that home warranty, to prepay some HOA dues in full, to help you with your loan cost expenses, whatever it may be. Sellers can give a certain amount of closing costs to a buyer as a credit, not a check, at closing. All right. That being said, how many deals that we're selling over on Maricopa County involved seller pay closing costs? Because that's a good indicator as to where the leverage, the power stands for negotiation between buyer and seller. Well, here we go. Right now, there are 47%, okay, 47% in June of 2024 of all properties that were selling that had seller paid concessions or closing costs in some form or fashion. And the median concession amount was $9,424 that sellers were giving in addition to their price that they agreed upon to the buyer to help them with their closing. Interesting, right? Now, if you come up here, you can see concessions by price range. This is interesting, I think, because it kind of tells you where that lies the most. 64% lies between $350,000 and $400,000 homes. Okay. Interesting. Now, the range really comes from 47% here at $200,000, and it kind of bookends here at the $500,000 to $600,000 mark, because this area right here are the amount of buyers that need the most help with financing. They may have the least amount of money saved up to purchase or put down on a house, and so they're going to leverage a good size mortgage amount, and therefore you have maybe the need for a rate buy down, the need for help with their closing costs. And so this is where it lies in this price point. Okay. Now you can see the over luxury, over 10 million or more is 0. Okay. 7.5 to 10, 25%. That's interesting, but there were only 4 that closed. So one had that closing cost assistance. And you see that's 13.7%. It's a lot lower in the higher end market, which makes a lot of sense, right? All right. Now, if you don't adjust your price accordingly to what the market says, if you don't offer potential seller closing costs, then you might have a listing that does not sell. In the industry, we call this expired listings. These are listings that don't sell, and therefore they expire, and they are now in that category. Well, you can see, look at what happens from the first week of the year to the end of the year. You can see that it's interesting how this definitely increases throughout the year. Why is that? Well, the reason why is because typically we have a seasonality in our market that goes up and down and back up potentially by the end of the year in some cases. Well, if a lot of people don't price their houses where the market is going as opposed to where they think it is, that's when a house will not sell. It's like the old Wayne Gretzky. I know the Stanley Cup playoffs are going on right now. It's the old Wayne Gretzky quote that you need to skate to where the puck is going to be, not where it currently is. And that's no different when selling a house as a home seller, because you need to anticipate where the market is going to go based upon all kinds of market conditions. And seasonality is one of those. And if you don't, potentially your house could expire and not sell. And if that happens, you will be one of the casualties as indicated here on the marketplace. So far this year, okay, there are 2,037 homes that have expired. All right. So it continues to run throughout the year, and the total gets more and more because the amount of expires doesn't go down. Typically, it will increase throughout the year. Now, if you go to the one more indicator I want to cover here, which is the contract ratios, this is interesting because the contract ratios we talked about a couple of episodes ago as well, very much so play a role into what's happening. Now, if you look right now, you can see the box here at the bottom right. There have been, it's 48.2. There have been 7,800 homes that have sold, 16,000 that are currently on the market. Now, let's go back to 2015. Okay. It's 55.5. And what did we say this one was? This one's 48.2. So 55.5, I had it right about here. Okay. Right in there. You had 17,000 homes in the market, a very similar active inventory count, but you had more homes selling. More homes were selling. Okay. And so, again, this doesn't mean that there's less homes on the market. And all of a sudden, there's more homes on the market now when it gets really big, because this doesn't mean, let's look at it right now. Okay. There are 4,242 homes in the market during this big number. But here, there are 15,000, way more. You just have a lot less homes selling compared to here. That the contract ratio was 203. It was out of control. It was a really good market, right? This is January 21 when the market was on fire. So the contract ratio is going down, which is not good. You want that contract ratio to be high in a balanced to sellers market, okay? Now, the last one we'll talk about is rentals. Where does this stand and why is this important? Well, because housing is housing, you have to live somewhere. If you're not going to buy a house because transaction count's down, we're clearly seeing that transaction count is down, then you're going to have to rent. So what is happening to the rental prices? Well, guys, they have continued to stay flat. Look at this graph here, guys. Since August of 22, it has redlined flat across the board to June of 24. Okay. That's almost 2 years of flat rental rates, which in this case, hey, it's not that bad. It's okay for a buyer because they're at least staying steady, or I should say a tenant. They're not increasing crazy amounts. And it's also good for a lender because they're not losing money as well when it comes to the rents for a property. So it's kind of balanced right now, which is a good thing overall. But that's what's happening with the rental market. And this is important, guys, because again, like I said, you're going to live somewhere. So if you're not going to buy, you're going to rent. Now, why is the rental rates probably staying the same? Well, they are because you have a lot of people that just aren't moving. And so the balance between supply and demand on the rental side is staying somewhat equal because you have a lot of people with 3, 2.5, 4% mortgages that just aren't going to move right now. And so you have this standoff and to see who's going to move first. Now, we know we have a real good idea who's probably going to move first, and that's based off of interest rates. When they move, we know the demand is there. People have already given indicators that they want to jump off the sideline, and they will, or they want a bigger or smaller house. They're looking to downsize. It just depends on what they're looking to do. But one thing we know is that the vast majority of people, when polled, that bought a house in 2020 and 2021 said they were not happy with their home purchase. They just did it to get a home, and they just went for whatever they could because at that time, almost every home in America seemed to have multiple offers on the property, and they had to do what they had to do just to get the house at the time. Okay. So we know that's there, and we'll know that's coming out once rates start to come down. The question is, when will that be? So no one knows, but we're going to share my screen and go back into this section. Talking about rental rates. A $669 billion debt wave is looming as apartment rents take a turn. Now, what they're saying here, speaking of rental rates, is that the actual rental rates of Phoenix are fairly flat, but you have a lot of inventory coming to the market, and you have a lot of loans outstanding, $669 billion to be exact, across America. And what's going to happen? Well, if rates don't come down to where when these bridge loans reset, the operators cannot get a new loan, you're looking at foreclosures, and that's not good. Then you're looking at a little bit of a small little recession or crisis on hands when it comes to the debt of commercial real estate. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully rates will come down a little bit to be able to allow these people to get a new loan that's somewhat in the ballpark of what they're currently paying, so that they can continue to not give this back to the bank and therefore cause a little bit of an issue. All right. But this article goes on to talk about specifics around this. I'm not going to get into all that, but needless to say that this is something that everyone's watching between now and the year 2026 to see how people are able to restructure a lot of that commercial debt. Okay. And then you come over here, monthly median sales price. Okay. Guys, look at this. The line is going up. It's interesting, right? It's interesting. It's going up to 457,500 in June of 2024. Now, it peaked at 480 May of 2022, and it went down, and now it's back up. So hopefully this stays somewhat flat so that the affordability of the housing market in Phoenix will continue to not get worse as people are looking for good housing, because a lot of jobs are being created here in the Phoenix area with the economy. On previous shows, we covered a lot of the jobs that are coming here, the companies that are coming here in the Phoenix area. So it's bright. The economic news is very bright for Phoenix in the short and long term of the economy. Now, here's another article, which is good. Phoenix, one of the leading nationwide relocation hotspots. So we just covered an article that said that Phoenix was somewhat overvalued by 21% or so, or no, it's 12%, whatever it was. And that's not good. You'd much rather be negative in that situation and like Detroit, right? And have this affordability be outstanding, but we're not Detroit. We have amazing weather. We have an amazing newer city when it comes to the overall infrastructure compared to other cities on the East Coast. We have a lot of growth happening. We're the number one city for retirees to relocate into. In fact, Mesa is that city in terms of the suburb of the Phoenix area. And a lot of things going on, guys. So this article right here is very applicable. Phoenix is one of the leading nationwide relocation hotspots according to the study. Now, what study is this? Well, let's jump into this real quick, okay? The Valley remains one of those destinations, okay? And that is Pods Enterprises and U-Haul they conduct surveys all the time about where are all the population moving to or going to based on the orders they are receiving and the business they get. Phoenix ranked number 7 nationally among cities with the highest number of move-ins. The study measures moving trends and data from cities across the U.S., but only ranks the top 20 highest move-in, move-out locations, okay? So let's come down here. And you can see that right here, most people moving to Phoenix were over 65 years old, closely followed by people between 55 and 64, which usually are the highest income earning years of someone's life, okay? All right, before they retire, so to speak, okay? Now, down here in the top 20, here you go. Myrtle Beach, kudos to you guys, right? Number 1. And then you have Ocala, Florida, Houston, Greenville, South Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina, Raleigh. Phoenix coming in at number 7, followed by Knoxville, Tennessee, Jacksonville, Florida, and Asheville, North Carolina. Now, I would argue that all of these things have a lot in common. These top 10 right here have a lot in common. Number 1, weather. It's a little more warmer on all of these places that are in this top 10 list. Number 2, they have economies that, based upon the state, economy, state restrictions, state income tax, state tax principles that are really friendly when it comes to business growth and businesses. So it's lower taxes or no taxes on the state income side. And then you have an environment where the corporate tax are going to be in a position where businesses feel they can thrive and grow. Okay. That's another thing. So you have the Sun Belt, you have the southern part of the United States. This is interesting where the population migration is going. Okay. Now, if you continue on this article, it talks about the Carolinas are obviously doing really good. Phoenix suburbs see a lot of population increases. And we talked about Mesa being that number 1 place for retirees for all the suburbs. Lining up with the pod study, Mesa has the largest influx of retirees in the nation, according to the recent Smart Asset Analysis. That is pretty darn cool. Surprise, ranks number 18 and is in the top 25 every year since 2020. So a lot of things happening with growth around Phoenix, guys. And as indicated by this show and other information you probably are hearing, the amount of companies coming here are amazing. And the quality of companies are amazing. The tech sector, the semiconductor manufacturing sectors are huge, and they're exploding here in Phoenix. Okay, a few more articles here, and we'll be wrapping this up. Abby, what's going on here? Kelly, for the relocation data, does that include people who may just be here part-time or half of the year? I don't think that even includes the half of the year residents. These are people who are changing their addresses for their permanent residence to Phoenix. So that could be some, no doubt about it, because I think you have people leaving California. I know we do. We've helped several people in California and Seattle recently here relocate, and they weren't leaving or giving up their house in those states. They were just changing their address for tax purposes and then spending time here, of course, as well. So interesting question. They didn't specify. That's my educated guess on that that question, Abby. So good question. All right, a few more articles here, guys. I'm going to wrap this up. There's the value proposition. So, guys, you've heard about this VAI resort, and if you haven't, now you know. Okay. This is going to be awesome. This is out in the west side by the Westgate area, by where the Arizona Cardinals play their home games for the NFL. And they have the VAI Resort, which is a $1 billion project, along with the Mattel Adventure theme park, which is an amusement park. Yes, that means roller coasters. Thank you, Lord. We finally are going to have hopefully some decent roller coasters for a major city that we are. You think Six Flags would come here? Six Flags, I'm calling you out. Why don't you come here and build a big, huge amusement park? I know it would do really well. Yes, even in the summer. I do. Okay, so here we go. This is backed up a little bit for the VAI Resort. It's going to open now in 2025, but Mattel, in terms of the adventure amusement theme park, that is still scheduled to be on track to open late 2024. So let's hope that happens. It's going to be beautiful, guys. Look at this picture, this rendering. Holy cow. It's going to be amazing. A beach, even in the middle of the desert. Yes, a beach in the middle of the desert. That is correct. It's going to be outstanding right next to all that Westgate area that is booming right now in Glendale. Oh, I love your name here, Kelly. Oh, what a great name. And you spell it the correct way too. Love it, Kelly. Hello there. I'm thinking about relocating to Arizona in the next 5 to 8 years. Do you predict the housing market will change by then? My guess is that it will. Yeah, Kelly, good question. I think this is probably a question that everyone probably has to an extent. So thank you for asking it, because I know others are thinking that. And yes, I do think the housing market will change by then. It always runs in cycles, and the average market cycle for any place in America runs about in 7 years. So from good to bad, 7 years. From bad to good, 7 years. It just depends on where we're currently at. So right now, we've been on a bull run since really for the housing market is really 2012, 13, right in there. And so it's been a good decade of a bull run of a market cycle going in the right direction in terms of going up. Now, the one caveat to that is COVID. COVID threw a monkey wrench in it for a short period of time. Then it did this V bounce, and it got even crazier with home prices going up even more. That was primarily due to inflation. Because remember, when COVID happened, the government said we're going to give all this money away for certain things, right? Medical supplies and to people in the form of checks and all kinds of stuff, right? And so, and businesses, and so when that happened, a lot of more money was injected into the economy, and therefore inflation went through the roof. Okay, now inflation is starting to come back down as that money cycles through the economy. When that happens, you can make a case for that happening. And when that happens, you can make the case that the Federal Reserve is trying to obviously stall our economy a little bit on purpose to get inflation to die down. And when that happens, you're going to see unemployment probably go up, and then you're going to have buying power of most home buyers go down. When that happens, I think for most places across America, you're going to see the prices start to settle back down a little bit. Phoenix, maybe a little bit, but Phoenix is one of the more robust housing markets in America. And with everything that's going on in terms of the amount of jobs that are coming here, new jobs being created, and the huge influx, outflux disparity in terms of population growth, I think Phoenix could be one of those housing markets that won't change that much in terms of pricing. It could, because everything runs in a cycle. So I'm not saying it's not going to go down. I think it needs to go down a little bit to correct itself. And then the amount it goes down is the wild card. However, you mentioned 5 to 8 years, Kelly. I think you're in a great position, because I think if the market does correct itself, it will do so in the next year or 2 or 3. And then it will bottom out. And hopefully the economic growth that Phoenix never really had in the last Great Recession. We were a service-based economy with one Fortune 500 company. We didn't have all these big companies and divisions of companies coming here with different sectors of industry throughout our economy. Now we do. So if the housing economy gets hurt, gets wrecked because it's correcting itself, we have other sectors of the industry that hopefully will help keep it from being such a huge recession. So hopefully that answers your question. But I think in 5 to 8 years, your timing could be pretty good if that's the outlook of time you have. Thank you for watching the show. I really appreciate it. And hopefully that answered your question. Okay. Just to finish up here, guys, a couple more articles. And by a couple, I mean just 2, and they'll go quick. Here we go. Waymo. Guys, you know we have driverless cars in Phoenix? Yes, we do. And there they are. Waymo is the company. It is owned by Google. And this sucker just ran into a light pole, okay? A utility pole. And there's been multiple, not that many, but there have been some accidents with driverless cars. I can't imagine you would think that was possible. But yes, it is. So anyways, these things roll around town all day long with no one driving them. And it's the most bizarre thing you'll ever see. I'm just watching them going on the road like, I would never jump in that car. I just wouldn't. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. I'll call an Uber and I want a human driving the car. I'm just not there. And they, every once in a while, will get into a little bit of a wreck. So that's not good. Anyways, they're working on obviously expanding their services throughout the entire greater Phoenix area. And we'll see what happens when that continues to get a bigger fleet of cars for Waymo, driverless cars. It's crazy, right? Abby had a Waymo behind me the other day, quickly left the road and got back on it after it was gone. Yeah, I got a little, it's weird. I'm with you, Abby. I'm not doing that. Just not me. Okay, last but not least, I got to give a shout out to my friend, the head coach of Arizona State Sun Devils football, Kenny Dillingham. He made the Phoenix Business Journal for trying to raise money for the NIL fund to be able to pay players so that we put a better product on the field for Arizona State football. And guys, he's been there for a year now. He's going into his second year. And guys, he's going to turn this thing around. I have no doubt about it. Please support Arizona State football. We hope that you do. And in doing so, if you are a local business owner, what he's asking is that you can consider possibly donating some money to the NIL fund so that we can pay players to get the best talent for Arizona State football. And right now they have $3 million in their coffers, it sounds like, or a raise at least. And that's good. But unfortunately, to compete on a little bit above average level, you got to have around $7 to $7.5 million in the coffers, so to speak. And so they are about, a little over half short of where they want to be. And then, of course, you have the top echelon schools that are 10 million plus in their coffers. And that's hard to compete with when they have 10, 15, $20 million. And then you're a university that has 3 or 4. It's just hard to get the top tier players to come in that scenario. So he's hoping for more business engagement and to put a product on the field that the entire Phoenix area can be really, really proud of. And I have no doubt that he's going to do it. So guys, go support Arizona State football. It is on the up and coming. And Kenny is not just a good friend of mine, but he's also a client. And I really appreciate all his hard work to try to turn the Arizona State football program around and make it a national, not just a regional, but national contender one day on the college football sector. So that's what we're looking at, guys, today. I really appreciate you letting me plug that because Arizona State football is hopefully on the up and coming. I'm a big football fan. At the end of the day, I play for Nebraska, so I want them to win the most. But number 2, right behind them, is Arizona State because I am a resident of the Phoenix area. So, guys, thank you so much for joining the YouTube Live every day. Hopefully you got value out of it. And we'll be back next week with another really good show. And if you have any questions, hit us up, 480-660-5974, or subscribe below to our channel. We really appreciate that as well. And until next time, Phoenix, keep it classy.